Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour for the 16th year of Changi, the 7th month and the 14th day by the heavenly calendar. As Tim Elder sitting in for the Second Kingdom, I don't know what I would do without that calendar. Could have to figure something out because I'm going to be on the move pretty soon. All right, so let's see. Let's go make our trip around the kingdom as usual. And right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee, it is, hold on a second, 63 degrees and mostly clear. Dense fog will lift this morning with a shower in spots, partly sunny and warmer. High of 84. Tonight getting down to 65, partly cloudy and humid, with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm from late evening on. At Father's hometown of Cheongju, North Pyongan Province, it is currently 83, mostly cloudy, getting down to 73 tonight. Cloudy, warm, and humid. Periods of rain late. Tomorrow, high of 77. It's going to be a cool day. Periods of rain, some heavy in the morning. Cloudy and not as warm, but humid. And then at the Tony Palace in Northeast Pennsylvania, currently 64 with fog. Areas of morning fog, otherwise humid with times of cloud and sun. High of 81 today. Tonight, getting down to 64 with partly cloudy and humid. At the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground, currently 75, partly cloudy, very warm and variable cloudiness, high of 96. Tonight, cloudy and humid, low of 72. At the Suncheon Palace in Korea, 81 currently, mostly clear, partly cloudy and uncomfortably humid, 75 for a low tonight. Tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sunshine, hot, very humid, with a shower in places, 92 for a high. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, mostly clear and 82 right now. 68 for a low tonight, an evening shower in places, otherwise clear to partly cloudy. And then 89 for a high tomorrow, very warm with sun and areas of high clouds. Ilan, the property in Taiwan, currently it is 87. Cloudy, getting down to 77 tonight, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, high of 93, hot, sunshine, and a few clouds. And yeah, so right now, I guess it was raining, but I think it stopped now. Okay, all right. Possible danger of dehydration and heat stroke while doing strenuous activities Saturday. Saturday be tomorrow, right? Okay, so be careful. All right, let's go to Father's Word. Let's see. Where are we here? We're in the Pan-Pacific Providence. And Father says, when you go to Pantanal in the summer, the king has spoken about Brazil in the summer, hasn't he? Not one of his fondest memories, apparently. He said it was hot, very hot. Anyway, so if you go to Pantanal in the summer, 조그만 코도 작은 곳을 다 삼켜버린다. If I think he's talking about fish here. Yeah, he's talking about fish. Oh boy. And I don't know, I'm not able to translate names of fish. I was never good in biology. Didn't like having to memorize all this stuff. Anyway, what Father says though is that if a fish is just a little bit bigger than another fish, the bigger fish will swallow the smaller fish. And then let's skip over the fish names. He says, if the big fish swallows all the little fish, then the smaller fish will protest to God. Why do you allow them to just eat all of us up? So when God created everything from the water to all the heaven and earth and everything like that, he made it so that anything that was slightly larger than something else would be able to swallow that was just smaller than it. And so since God is biggest, yes, Father connects it to God. And since God is biggest, he's able to swallow everything. So he says, don't complain. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. God is able to swallow everything. So small fishes, you don't get to complain. Because everything eventually winds up in God, right? Because the big fish swallows the little fish, but then the bigger fish swallows the big fish, and then the even bigger fish swallows that fish, and then the even bigger fish gets caught by a human being and eaten, and then God swallows the human being, and so it all works out. Okay, praise God, it all works out. All right, I want to stay on the topic of the of Xi Jinping's triumph day for yesterday now. Also, but I guess I better give a short update on Hak Ja Han. I think it's important for us to know about what's going on with her because um, it is a heartbreaking situation, and father is not at all happy about what is going on, but it's all the result of her betrayal. And so, and I don't have sources inside the Korean Family Federation. Other people do. So I'm just watching the media, but that may be actually better sources than what sort of stuff that's leaking out. But anyway, what the media is saying is that on Wednesday she checked herself into a hospital, not the Chongshim Hospital. I think she was there for a while, but she finally got into the Asan Hospital in Tokyo, and the Asan Hospital is one of the major hospitals in not Tokyo. What am I saying? In Seoul, and this is one of the major hospitals in Seoul. And she got in there, and on the 4th, she had some sort of a medical operation that's related to her heart, and I don't know what that is, but somehow not an operation. I'm sorry, a procedure. There's a difference between operation and procedure, and I have to be careful with the terminology. Not an operation, but procedure. Anyway, she had a procedure on the 4th, Thursday, and then today, this morning, she checked out of the hospital. So back right now, she's back. She's back. Well, I don't know where she is right now, but she's not in the hospital. She may be in a. I would imagine that she's back in Chongpyeong in her private quarters, but I don't know. I would imagine so. Anyway, her lawyers, or she has through her lawyers, submitted a request to the special counsel that saying that she doesn't feel that she can attend her interrogation on Monday the 8th, as the special counsel has demanded. They've sent her a subpoena, and she's supposed to be on the 8th, but she's saying, "Oh, I can't do that. First of all, I did this medical procedure on Thursday, and I need to recover from that, and I'm not in complete health, so I can't go." And also, Monday happens to be the anniversary of my husband's death. So she'll use them any way she can. All right, so and we'll see. I don't know what, if any, response the special counsel has given to that request. Meanwhile, the media here is reporting that Mike Pompeo has published somewhere on his social networking services. I'm not sure which one, but anyway, he's supporting Hak Ja Han, and he's kind of warning that Korea may be about to commit some sort of suppression of religion or something like that. Don't worry, Mike, it ain't a religion. So it looks like somebody in Washington or somebody in the United States is busy making some phone calls. It's probably Tom, but I don't know. But what I've noticed though is that the more it's like a fish that's on a hook, and the more the fish struggles, the worse it becomes. The deeper the hook gets into the lip into the mouth, and it's eventually a losing battle, right? It's just a matter of how hard the fish is going to resist. And the fisherman actually gets a big kick out of the big out of this strong resistance. And I feel that that's kind of like what's going on right now. The more she resists, the more I would say she becomes the center of attention for Korean media, for example. I mean, until a few days ago, the former first lady was the center of attention. But now the media sort of sidelined with that one, and now they're focusing on Hak Ja-han. If she were to just say, "Okay, you want to ask me some questions, I'll go and I'll answer whatever questions you have." If she had just done that, then I think thing would not be nearly as much news as it is now. But now you've even got foreigners like Mike Pompeo making a fuss over it, and so it's not working very well for her. Even, for example, the media is focusing on her lawyers and who they are, and trying to speculate how much money they must have received, because they say that if they defend Hak Ja-han, then that's going to be the end of their careers, and so they must have gotten enough money to set themselves up for the rest of their lives. This is what they're saying. I don't know if that's true or not, but this is what they're saying. So we'll see what happens on Monday, whether she shows up or not. Right. And by the way, the Family Federation apparently has filed with police that they plan to have as many as 5,000 people there. Yeah, I don't think 5,000 are going to show up, but I don't think 5,000 are going to show up. Yeah, they would have to get 5,000. I think they would have to bring people over from Japan, and yeah, I don't want. it would be pretty bad picture to have 5,000 Japanese demonstrating in Korea. That would only turn public opinion against her even more, if that's possible, right? All righty then. So we will continue to see what happens there. Okay. Now let's turn our attention to Mr. Xi. Yes. And this is a Reuters article, which I think is very well written. Well written in the sense that, of course, Reuters is a globalist organization and stuff like that. But we do need to read these stories to get a picture, because it may not fit our preferred narrative. All right, it may not fit our preferred narrative, but that doesn't mean it's not true. I think too often we tend to accept information, or information in air quotes, that fits our narrative and has no other credibility other than the fact that it fits our narrative. In other words, it's something that we like to hear, right? For example, if someone were to say to me, "Tim, you know what? They found that ice cream is good for you. It'll make you live longer. It has nothing to do with cholesterol, and the more ice cream you eat, the healthier you become." Should I believe that? All right. You know what I mean? It's something I like to hear, right? But that doesn't mean it's credible. It won't make you fat. Not at all. It won't make you fat. just because it's something I like to hear doesn't mean it's credible. And of course, with ice cream, people are not going to fall into that trap. But with something like Xi Jinping, or something like North Korea too, where hard and fast information is difficult to come by, people tend to choose, I think, tend to have this bias in favor of the information, or, again, in air quotes, the statements, shall we say, that tend to confirm their preferred narrative. And I think this time, those people had a reality check. But unfortunately, they're not really admitting it in many cases. They're saying, oh, he was down and out last month, but now he's made a comeback. No, he hasn't made a comeback. He was never down and out. Anyway, let's take a look at what's going on here. And here's Xi Jinping with who, with Kim Jong-un. Closer ties. All right. Okay. Anyway, let's take a look here. And this is written by Reuters in Hong Kong and Beijing. So let's see what they say. When Chinese leader Xi Jinping organized his first parade to mark the anniversary of the end of World War II in 2015, in other words, 10 years ago, he placed his two predecessors by his side in a show of respect and continuity of leadership. 10 years on, in other words, this month, and having eliminated domestic opposition as he serves an unprecedented third term as president, Xi was flanked on Wednesday at the 80th anniversary parade by Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. So immediately you can see that Reuters is pointing out that over 10 years, Xi Jinping's position has been solidified and he no longer has to fear domestic opposition, and he's able to spread out across the world. All right, so that's an important point there. Chinese Communist Party leaders were interspersed among overseas guests. The parade followed Xi's high-profile summit with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at a weekend meeting at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Tianjin and the Chinese leader's rare visit to Tibet last month. This display of diplomatic clout, stamina, and geopolitical ambition has helped quell concerns among some China observers about the 72-year-old president's vitality linked to sporadic absences and, so far unknown, succession plans. It has also helped to divert domestic attention from slowing growth, experts say. So, yeah, so some China's observers, right, are having a reality check. Their concerns are being quelled, right, by this geopolitical ambition and by his diplomatic clout, stamina. And this article is sort of interspersed among various ads. Longevity was on the leaders' minds as they walked to the rostrum at Beijing's Tiananmen Square. Xi and Putin were caught in a hot mic moment discussing organ transplants and the possibility that humans could live to 150 years old. Did you see that? Yeah. Speaking through interpreters, yeah. They were saying, yeah, you just have to, modern science will allow you to have organ transplants. So as you grow older, you can get more other organs, and people alive now may live to be 150. This is what Xi and Putin were actually saying to each other, and they didn't know that they were on a hot mic, I think, but they were. This week of triumph diplomacy for Xi. So he's 72, 72, I think he said, right? So he's planning on living another 80 years because he's basically made himself president for life. So that means that he's planning on being president for the next 80 years. Oh my goodness. No, I think God is going to step in. This week of triumphant diplomacy for Xi shows that, and by the way, Putin also, I think, that he remains totally in charge of the elite politics of the Communist Party, said Neil Thomas of the Asia Society. Yes, and Asia Society too is a kind of an elitist, globalist situation, but they, they tend to know what they're talking about in many cases. He remains totally in charge of the elite politics of the Communist Party. Totally in charge. Okay. Unable to get the same legitimacy from economic growth as his predecessors, Xi has turned it toward nationalism to try and make up for it, Thomas said, which is why we expect that he's going to try and take over Taiwan one way or another. But I think that story we had yesterday is very instructive, that it's not going to be a beach landing, not the Normandy invasion type of situation, right? Instead, he's already doing it. He's already infiltrating Taiwan society, and he's also preparing to cut off Taiwan from any sort of help from the United States, maybe by sinking an aircraft carrier or something like that. And so he intends to take over Taiwan in that way, not the way that he's not going to do what Russia did in Ukraine, but he's going to sort of slowly infiltrate Taiwan society, which he's doing already, which is a story that we had last week, I think, right? It's a way to divert attention from economic challenges and make his citizens proud to be Chinese, even if it's harder to feel that from the day-to-day experiences of unemployment, falling house prices, and stagnant wages. I need to show the, let's see here. I wonder. Because there was a very important sort of opposition thing. Yeah, here it is. This is in the South Korean Chosun Ilbo. Okay. Let's just take a look at this, right? So this is projected onto the side of a building by a beam projector from across the street or across the square or whatever. And I think there's a translation here. Arise, you who do not wish to be slaves. Arise and resist to reclaim your rights. And there were actually not just one, but several, or maybe two or three. I see here the word for slave. I see here the word for rights here, and your self or your. Okay. All right. So, and this happened on the 29th of last month. So a couple of days before well, actually about 6 days before the big event there. And this was not in Beijing, but in Chongqing, a city with a population of 30 million. Okay. This was a laser beam slogan projected on a wall of a high-rise building. Okay. Chinese police took 50 minutes to trace the source of the projection and discovered a hidden beam projector in a nearby hotel room, which they shut down. Okay. However, the person who activated the projector was absent. He was already in London. A man named Chi Hong, 43, who identified himself as a performance artist and critic of the Communist Party, told the Times that he remotely operated it from the UK. All right, yeah, that's a good idea. By the time the police entered the hotel room, Chi Hong had already left China with his wife and daughters 9 days prior. He stated that his name is not a pseudonym and that he had reserved the hotel room for several days, informing staff that no room service was needed. His wife and family were unaware of his plans, believing they were traveling to the UK for a vacation. Maybe it's going to be a long vacation. And I think this is another one, or is this the same one? Yeah, it's the same one. It's the same. Yeah, it's the same one, I think. Yeah. All right. So, and he also released footage of 5 police officers entering the hotel room and discovering the projector hidden behind half-closed curtains. 4 officers touched the device to turn it off, while the 5th pointed at a surveillance camera that had captured them, apparently startled. A handwritten note addressed to the Chinese police was on the table. The letter said, even if you are beneficiaries of the system today, you will eventually become victims of this land. Therefore, treat those who criticize the Communist Party kindly. Very interesting. That's, of course, it's one man's thing, and that alone is not going to bring it down. But a city of 30 million on a bunch of people must have seen that, and at least they know that they're not alone. They're not alone. All right, and then here, this is a graphic of some of the things that were presented during the parade, so forth and so on, and so forth and so on. Okay. Xi underscored his elder statesman image with fashion choices. A gray suit in the style of those worn by Mao Zedong, matching his graying hair, a contrast to the black suits of his counterparts and his own black attire from a decade earlier. His number 2, Premier Li Qiang, whose role has diminished at home, was charged with relatively minor meetings with leaders of Malaysia and Uzbekistan, high-profile engagements with Kim, Modi, Turkish President Erdogan, and several others fell to Kai Chi, who heads the party's central secretariat responsible for its sprawling administration. In response to a Reuters request for comment, China's foreign ministry referred to news conference transcripts related to the recent diplomatic events, showcasing China's partnerships with developing nations. Partnerships. And positioning Beijing as committed to peaceful development and international cooperation. Yeah. They always have not just one mic, but a whole bunch of mics. And I've always wondered why that is. Is it because if one breaks, then you got the second one, but if the second one breaks too, you got the third one breaks, that you also got that, and then third one and fifth one. Always, wherever he goes, whenever he speaks, he has several mics in front of him. I don't know why that is. I have to ask someone sometime. Many countries that sent their leaders to China in the past week have been hit by U.S. President Donald Trump's trade tariffs this year, including India, which remains a significant buyer of Russian oil, hit by sanctions over Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Right. So I think Modi's presence there was largely due to the ongoing sort of trade tiff with President Trump, and I don't think that relationship is going to last very long. In one of the most memorable moments in the flurry of diplomatic encounters, Modi and Putin walked over for a chat with Xi while holding hands. Well, India and Russia have always been close, even during the Cold War. India was buying weapons from Russia, maybe also U.S., but also anyway, they were definitely not in the U.S. camp, and they always made a point of being non-aligned, as they would say. Holding hands, underscoring personal tensions between Trump and Modi, as well as Washington's failure to draw historically non-aligned India into counter Russia and China. I think Reuters is a little bit anti-Trumpian right now, and they just want to make a dig at Trump. I think that's. I don't think it's that serious. Ultimately, one of the biggest driving factors of the SCO show of solidarity has been U.S. policy. All right, so now they're turning on Trump. And here, analysts say Xi's whirlwind of activity underscores China's ambition in presenting itself as a reliable partner to developing nations on the global stage. Well, yeah, they want to take advantage of the developing countries, right? Well, as they've demonstrated in Africa with their predatory lending practices involving the Belt and Road, offering advantages like investment opportunities and even a new development bank. Yes, you see, development bank, yes, get them in debt, make them slaves. A major step forward for the SCO, which has expanded markedly over the past decades to also include India, Pakistan, and Iran. China's message as a more reliable, stable alternative to the United States. Yeah, okay, that is China's message. That is true. Reliable, stable, alternative. Is resonating with large swaths of the world, particularly across Asia. Well, those that have been taking advantage of the United States until now, and now Trump is cracking down on them. So yeah, they don't like that they're being cracked down on. Which sees the United States as an increasingly belligerent force in world affairs, right? Okay, maybe this is as far as we can go here. Okay. Here, let's go with it. Entrenched Chinese, Xi faces considerable challenges in managing this large and often fractious coalition. It is not really a coalition. I think it's just a meeting of some needs for the moment. I don't think it's a long-term coalition. Like we saw yesterday, we had that story yesterday. This is not a new NATO or anything like that. Ironically, China has been criticizing the United States for trying to create something like a NATO organization in East Asia, as he eyes a potential fourth term of office in 2027 to further cement his legacy as the most powerful Chinese leader since Mao. Entrenched Chinese foreign policy positions, including territorial disputes and industrial subsidies that have flooded foreign markets with cheap exports, will likely remain friction points, experts say, while India's deep distrust of China will not dissipate because of one brief meeting. It's not necessarily a big picture shift towards a more China-led international order, said Asia Society's Thomas. Yes, and that is very important. It's not, you can take out necessarily, it's not a big picture shift towards a more China-led international order. Although Xi Jinping, of course, tried to present it that way, but he knows that that's not the case. But listen, he got a lot out of this, and Kim Jong-un got a lot out of this as well, because of course he was in sort of a multilateral diplomatic situation for the first time, and well, I think for him the first time, and they said the first time in 66 years, which would be going back, but well, a very long time before Kim Jong-un was born. Excuse me there. But Kim Jong-un certainly is happy. He's back home now, and he's certainly, I'm sure he's very happy with the trip. You know, he took his daughter, and the reports are saying, "Oh, this solidifies the daughter's position as the successor," and I still disagree. No, no. Now, he may think of her. He may be thinking of her as a successor. Okay, he may be thinking, but if he actually dies, she's not going to last a week. I'm sorry, but somebody's going to push her aside, like the little sister, probably, um, or some committee of military generals or something like that. Yeah, they're not going to stand for a woman leading North Korea. That North Korea is an extremely Confucian society. It's, you know, it calls itself communist. Well, it calls itself Juche, I guess. Of course, they do worship Marx and Stalin. Stalin set them up, of course, in the first place. But this guy who is this North Korean guy who is putting up a lot of YouTube videos. I think it's Charles North Korea. I think is the title of the channel. I think either that or North Korea Charles, but I think it's Charles North Korea. And he talks a lot about North Korea. And he's been in the U.S. for, I think he said 13 years, and he speaks English so well that in the beginning I was skeptical that whether he was actually a real thing. But when I put together everything that he talks about and says, that yeah, I think he is the real thing. But yeah, he was saying that, you know, the daughter is basically there to keep Kim Jong-un from being lonely. You know? And I think he's probably right. I agree with that. I agree with what he's saying. Yeah. All right. So anyway, Kim Jong-un, I'm sure, is very happy right now. And so Kim Jong-un's political sort of a base in North Korea has also become more solid. Putin, I don't know. He went to China and played the part of a, you know, junior partner. What did he get out of it? Well, he got out of it a promise from North Korea, from Kim Jong-un, that he would help him with anything. For one thing, I don't know if Kim Jong-un is the actual decision maker in North Korea today. It may be the little sister, Kim Yo-jong. But he, you know, so he got a commitment, and he also was able to, I guess, develop closer ties with China. Russia and China now are building a natural gas pipeline so as to, you know, avoid any kind of sanctions from the United States, and I guess that is going to help him. And so Russia will be exporting natural gas to China through that pipeline when it's finished, and that will give Russia a lot of hard currency that they need very much. And this will be a transaction that the United States would not be able to stop. So I guess he did get that out of it. Uh, but I just wonder if that's enough to cover the fact that he was very definitely the junior partner there. Of course, Kim Jong Un was number three, obviously, but okay, he's a small country, so I don't think that's such a big deal. But Putin is, he did not present himself as an equal to Xi Jinping at all, and that may hurt him politically at home. I'd like to see how that develops over the coming days and weeks and months. All right. So that's about it for the China situation, and I will continue to look at it, to search for, because after all, for us, what's the ball that we're keeping our eye on? Bring down the Chinese Communist Party. Bring down the Chinese Communist Party. And I do not pray for the downfall of Xi Jinping, because, as I've explained, I think the downfall of Xi Jinping will actually extend the lifespan of the Communist Party, because they'll put a new guy in. They'll say, "Oh, all that bad stuff that you guys have been complaining about, it was all his fault. Oh, Xi Jinping's fault." And this new guy, he's great. He's wonderful. All right, and he's going to fix everything. So that would just extend the lifespan of the CCP. So we need to pray for the downfall of the CCP, and that will happen as quickly as possible. Then that will be good. And I think we had that story several weeks ago now that pointed out that China does not have a Gorbachev. Remember, we had a story. No, there was a video, but I talked about the video, right? And one of the things, the differences between Soviet Union in 1991 and China today is that China does not have a Gorbachev. China does not have someone who's trying to reform the party politically. Instead, it's just gathering more and more power, more power, more power. And so that's actually means probably that when it breaks, when the Chinese Communist Party breaks, and when it tumbles, it's going to be a big tumble and big splash, a big splatter all over the place. It's going to cause a lot of problems for the world. But it's a set of problems that we would gladly go through. All right, let's see what's going on here. So people are accusing President Trump of losing India. I don't think so. India is just doing, some negotiating, and I think Trump realizes that. Trump says U.S. has lost India, Russia to China. U.S. has lost India, Russia to China. President Trump lamented early Friday. Trump posted a photograph of Indian Prime Minister Modi and Russian Putin alongside Chinese Xi Jinping. Looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together. I don't think he really believes that. He's also just negotiating there. And he knows that Modi's going to come back very quickly. Trump prods EU get tougher with Russia on oil. U.S. to cut some security funds for countries bordering Russia, right? And today he's going to sign this order to rename the Department of Defense as the Department of War, which it was during World War II. And then let's see here. And also yesterday he signed the executive order defining the trade deal with Japan. They had negotiated it, but it wasn't on paper. And Japan was very nervous about this. And now it's there. Trump to meet tech titans, but Musk is not invited. Remember when Biden had a meeting of all the companies that are creating electric vehicles, and Musk was not invited. He complained about this on and on and on afterwards, right? Saying that we make more electric vehicles than all those other guys put together, and yet they did not invite me. Now it looks like I don't know what's going on between Trump and Musk, but come on, you guys, grow up, will you? The guest list is set to include Gates and Tim Cook and Zuckerberg and a dozen other executives from the biggest artificial intelligence tech firms. One notable absence from the guest list is Elon Musk. Musk had publicly had a public break with Trump earlier this year. Well, maybe he refused to go. Maybe they left him off the list because he said he wasn't going to accept the invitation. Okay, anyway. Grow up, you guys, come on. Yeah. Right. Okay, appeals blocks limits on troops in LA. So it blocks the limits. Yeah. And so it's a win for Trump, it looks like. And Trump presses EU to get tougher with Russia. We may come back to that. And Senator Schmidt says Trump succeeds despite judges. Yeah, you know, there are always Obama judges who and Biden judges who try to frustrate him and try to block him, but then the appeals court or the Supreme Court comes around for him. All right, U.S. deploys jets to Puerto Rico in drug crackdown. U.S. Venezuela military aircraft flew near Navy vessel. So there may be a war now between the U.S. and Venezuela, between Maduro and the U.S. And Venezuela has become, basically a kleptocracy or basically a drug country ruled by drugs. Venezuela, we all know that the Venezuelan currency has collapsed and is no good anymore, and it's not worth the paper it's printed on. And so people, instead of spending it, are making these very nice origami things with it and trying to sell those so as to somehow recoup the value that they put into that currency. But there are some people in Venezuela who are doing very, very well. And who are they? They are people with access to dollars. And how do they get access to dollars? Drugs, right? Transit point for drugs to the United States. And so I think President Trump shooting that boat, sinking that boat with a missile, and then publicizing the video of it was a very strong move. Some people are arguing about, international law. Well, listen, some people say it was an act of war, but I would say that shipping drugs into the United States and then effectively causing the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans every year, that in itself is an act of war. That is an act of war. And so President Trump was simply retaliating, I suppose, or sending a message that the United States is not going to stand by that kind of thing. Let's take a look at this story, because the Caribbean War, shall we call it, the Caribbean War. And I don't think this is one that Father would mind so much, in my opinion. Although he has said that God hates, there's nothing that God hates more than war. But there are wars and then there are wars. The U.S. has ordered the deployment of 10 F-35 fighter jets to a Puerto Rico airfield to conduct operations against the drug cartels, two sources briefed on the matter said, in a move likely to further inflame tensions in the region. The advanced fighter air jets will be added to an already bristling U.S. military presence in the Southern Caribbean as President Donald Trump carries out a campaign pledge to crack down on groups he blames for funneling drugs into the United States. Friday's development comes 3 days after U.S. forces attacked a boat that Trump said was carrying massive amounts of drugs from Venezuela, killing 11 people. The strike appeared to set the stage for a sustained military campaign in Latin America. The sources speaking on condition of anonymity said the 10 fighter jets are being sent to conduct operations against designated narco-terrorist organizations operating in the Southern Caribbean. The planes should arrive in the area by late next week, they said. The U.S. has deployed warships in the Southern Caribbean in recent weeks with the aim of carrying out Trump's crackdown. 7 U.S. warships and 1 nuclear-powered fast attack submarine are either in the region or expected to be there soon, carrying more than 4,500 sailors and Marines. Wow, that's a big force for the Caribbean. U.S. Marines and sailors from the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit have been carrying out amphibious training and flight operations in southern Puerto Rico. The buildup has put pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has called effectively a kingpin of a drug and narco state. And that's what he is. Maduro, at a rare news conference in Caracas on Monday, said the United States is seeking a regime change through military threat. You betcha. Glad you noticed. Glad you noticed. U.S. officials have not said what legal justification was used for Tuesday's airstrike on the boat or what drugs were on board. Trump said on Tuesday that the U.S. military had identified the crew of the vessel as members of Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which Washington designated a terrorist group in February. And this also is by Reuters. It's a Reuters story. Okay, so that little sort of anti-Trump bit at the end was because it's a Reuters story. All right, so we'll see how that develops. And of course, the Democrats are going to side with the drug lords. They're going to say, "Oh no, don't kill the drug lords. We like them. We love them. We love them." Oh boy! But one thing I wanted to point out is that a number of places have said that, oh, President Trump's popularity is soaring. It's soaring. But I like to go with Rasmussen because why? Because they've shown themselves to be the most accurate. And Rasmussen, Trump is not soaring. This is total approval, and you can see that actually he's been steady. He's been steady. He's been basically since soon after. Well, he started out at 56, but he came down to 53 pretty quickly, and then since then he's been sort of going back and forth between a low of 47. 47 has been his low point. Each of these low points, it's always 47. And then here is 53. And just one time here, he had 54. So between basically 47 to 53, it's steady. So on certain issues, yes, his support may be soaring, but overall, we have this intransigent minority of people who just refuse to admit that they're wrong and that President Trump is right. Here, the red is strongly disapprove. That's at 41 now. Strongly approve is at 31. I'm sorry, 41. And this, I guess, this is 33. So that gives him a current index rating of -8. So I think we need to assume that this is probably correct, and don't get excited about President Trump, taking over the world or something like that, because I think his popularity is steady. It's just going up and down, up and down, up and steady, which is good. It's good, I mean, as he's using up a lot of political capital, and sometimes, but it's steady. So I think it's okay. It's okay for now. But then maybe next year he could make it go up leading up to the election next year. There are no important elections this year, at least not, super important. All right, let's see here. Newsom targets Newsmax, a sick enemy of the people. Okay. Let's take a look here. Share board of these headlines. All right. And Trump approves US UFC cage fight on White House lawn. Let's see what that does to his popularity. Okay. And the report says Trump doubtful about ending the war in Ukraine. Come on, Donald. Let's see what this is. Okay. This is NBC. Apparently this morning. Trump has grown increasingly pessimistic about the chance of brokering an end to the Russia-Ukraine conflict anytime soon. We're seeing the leaders of the two countries meet in person, NBC News reported on Friday, citing two senior administration officials. Okay, well, that may be true. That may be true. But, well, yeah, if Trump is just, if Putin is just bound and determined to keep fighting, I really think he needs to use the option that I've told him, or I've told you. I don't know if President Trump is listening to the King's Report, but, and that is to put pressure on China by depriving them of access to dollars. Now that would hurt a lot of American companies, right? But if you want to end the Ukraine war, I think that's the way to do it. It's kind of cold turkey. It's open heart surgery. It's drastic, but I think tell Xi, hey, during that parade you showed us a lot of weapons. Let's see what you got. Let's see if you want to use them. Let's see. I think the longer we wait with China, the worse it's going to get. China will use its propaganda to infiltrate not only Taiwan, but also Japan, South Korea, and the United States as well. I think we need to do something about China in the short term, not in the mid or long term. And the consequences for the world may be highly negative. But I think in the end, the United States will come out on top, and the United States will be able to say, hey, China is not going to take over the world, is not going to exercise dominance or governance over the world. That is going to be the United States, and we're going to do it based on our Christian culture, not on Marxism, not on socialism with Chinese characteristics, socialism for a new era with Chinese characteristics and Xi Jinping thought, and none of that stuff, and none of that Juche stuff either. The only Juche we want is the Juche of Reverend Moon. Well, maybe it won't go that far. All right, let's see here. In an hour or so, actually maybe less than a half, just over a half hour, the Labor Department is going to announce the labor statistics for last month, for August, and they're not expected to be very good. Here, employers likely added a modest 80,000 jobs last month. This is what's expected anyway. The Labor Department's Friday jobs report for August is expected to show that companies, government agencies, and nonprofits added a modest 80,000 jobs last month, according to a survey forecaster by the data firm FactSet. Economists polled by MarketWatch expect the figure will be 75,000. That would be a slight improvement on July's 73,000, but still offer more evidence that the American job market has cooled significantly from last year. The unemployment rate is forecast to stay at a low 4.2%, suggesting that employers are stuck in a no hire, no fire mode. They are reluctant to add many new workers, but don't want to give up the ones they have, but there are signs they may be starting to cut staff. Right. So we'll see. But I think so. If the job numbers are poor, then that'll be more impetus for the Fed to cut rates, cut the federal funds rate later this month, and we'll see what happens with that. And I think right now the stock market and other markets are expecting that to happen, and so stocks are what are stocks doing right now? I think they're positive right now. Let me see here. Yeah. Oops, no. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, yes, they are a little bit mixed, I guess. The Dow is down just a bit, but S&P and NASDAQ are up some. That's the futures, of course. Right? So, and they're mixed right now, but they'll be reacting, I'm sure, once the actual numbers come out in about 34 minutes from now. All right, let's see here. Let's take a look at this story quickly. May not have time to do it justice, but it's in depth, right? So we can come back to this maybe tomorrow. At epicenter of fentanyl crisis, parents and providers talk about what works. West Virginia leads the nation in accidental drug overdose deaths, despite a 40% decrease. West Virginia has long time had a problem with prescription drug abuse. I'm not sure what all is going on there, but there have been stories about this before. Mothers blame China cartels for using fentanyl to wage war on U.S. families. Right. That is true. There's a war going on. Fake students plague California community colleges, displacing real enrollees. Okay. State Department officer gets 4 years in prison for selling defense secrets to China. What motivates these guys? What motivates them? It could be that they got caught in some sort of a sexual thing and they were being blackmailed, or they were paid a lot of money. Stafford received over $10,000 from handlers he met online. Well, $10,000 is not a lot for selling out your country. Come on. You ought to at least add a couple of zeros to that. 10,000, that's pretty cheap. That's cheap. That barely covers most people's credit cards. Okay. Michael Jenna, 42, was a South Caribbean desk officer in the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs at the State Department's Washington headquarters. South Caribbean desk officer, wow. He held a top secret security clearance. So between 22 and 25, he sent copies of a variety of documents to handlers he met online, receiving more than $10,000 in return. And how did he think that if he's meeting these people online, that someone's not watching him, that the FBI is not watching him? Well, two of these people represented themselves as part of international consulting companies. There were clear signs that they worked on behalf of Beijing, believing these were Chinese state agents. Shannon nonetheless continued his relationship with them, according to the Justice Department. So here, okay. So all right. So anyway, he got taken in like that. Yep, gotta be careful. Gotta be careful. These people, when they go to work for the government, they all take an oath, don't they? All right. So that's all for today. And tomorrow we'll go in depth on that fentanyl article in the Epoch Times and see what that's all about. Because I think it may have to do with what I've been talking about in terms of dealing with the supply side or the demand side. I'm sorry, the demand side, which is important. All right, let's go. God bless Godspeed. May his kingdom come quickly.